Anyway, what we're going to be doing tonight is working with blends. Now each week I've been introducing you to new products. So this time I'm going to introduce you to blends. Now blends is an alcohol marker, really great for colouring in. But there's a few things we need to know when we use blends. Blends, you need to use a good quality paper. So Stampin' Up's Whisper White is a very good paper to use. It withstands using the blends. Make sure you have a piece of scratch paper underneath your work surface. Blends tend to bleed through your cardstock that you're working on. And also the ink. It's very important that the ink you use. Last week we were looking at Stays On ink, which is an ink you use when you do watercolouring or anything with water. But when you use blends with alcohol markers, you need to use the opposite. So Stays On is I can't quite remember. Here we go. Stays On is a solvent ink, and the Memento Black, which is what we're going to use with blends, is actually a water-based. So when we use watercolouring or doing, sort of anything with water, then we want to use something that's opposite. So that's your Stays On. When we use blends, which is alcohol, we want to use opposite. So that's water. So I'm going to turn you over now, or flip over the camera, not turn you over, so then we can see what we're going to do, and we'll get started. So just hold on 1 second, won't be a moment. Sorry about that. Now you should be able to see my desk. Let me just see, is that all coming into focus for you? Yep, there we go, we're there. So what are we going to make tonight? This really lovely Christmas tag. There's the tags I've decided I'm going to put on my Christmas parcels this year. I'm actually doing something a little bit different. Well, I do something a little bit different every year. I try to package up my parcels quite differently every year. And this year I've purchased some nice fabric shopping bags. And they're a natural cream colour with black printing on it. And I'm doing one bag per family, so one bag for my mum and my dad, and one bag for my sister and brother-in-law and their children, and inside is going to be all their gifts. So this is going to be actually hanging on the outside. So it's all quite natural tones. So we're going to make this, and this has been made with our alcohol blends. Now you can find that in your catalogue or in your shop when you buy blends. They come in a dark and a light. So just to give you an idea, this is the Old Olive in our blends. So we have a light Old Olive in light and an Old Olive in dark, and what they do is the two will blend together, and I'll show you that in a moment when we do some colouring in. So they come with a double tip. So if we have a look at this one, we've got a fine tip and the lids are very tight. We've got a fine tip on this end here, and that's shown by a very fine line and also a picture of the tip there. That's really great for colouring in small areas. And when you put your lid back on, make sure you push your lid until you hear that snap. On our other side, we've got, as I said, they are tight. We've got a brush tip, and that's shown by the picture of a brush tip and a thick line. So if you're not quite sure, sometimes the easiest way to put the lid back on is to put it down on the table, because it is square, so it's not going to roll about. Push it, slide it on there, and then just push it until you hear that click. If you don't get the click, just push that a little bit harder, because you need to have a good seal so it doesn't dry out. So every colour comes with a light and a dark, and you can purchase them individually or you can purchase them as a combo. All our colours are all coordinated. So when we have Old Olive, we've also got Old Olive in a stamp pad. We also have Old Olive in a cardstock, and sometimes we have it in ribbon and other different things as well. Okay, so let's get started. So let's pop those to the side. We'll pop that to a side to keep us going. And let me get rid of that for the moment. So the stamp set we're looking at is Christmas Gleaming. And what we're going to be using is this image here of the holly, and we're also going to be using the Merry Christmas. The products we're going to use tonight are crumb cake in our cardstock. Very vanilla. Now generally when we use blends, the Whisper White is one of the best things to use. There's still a bit of glare on that. I'm really sorry. I might just see what that's like if I switch it off. No, the glare might be coming from elsewhere. So I'm going to switch that back on again. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, but get back to what I was talking about. Normally we'd use Whisper White. That's probably one of the best cardstock to use. But tonight I'm actually going to do this on Very Vanilla, and it works quite well. So I was quite pleased with the way that turned out. The other products we're going to be using is our linen thread and our beautiful coordinating ribbon that goes with the Christmas Gleaming stamp set. And then the ink pads we're going to be using are Real Red, Crumb Cake, and blends in the Old Olive and the Real Red. Okay. And we've also in the blends have the, what's this called again? The colour lifter. So that moves the colour around. So we will use, I'll show you how to use that as well. So that's what we're going to be using tonight. So let's move all this out of the road and we'll get started. We also will be using a sponge. As I said, the Memento ink pad. So let's just pop all this to one side, and we need the Very Vanilla first. I've already mounted the stamps on a block, so that's it there. Might actually need a bigger piece of the Very Vanilla, so let me just grab a bigger piece in. Oops, just move that out of the road. So as I said, have a piece of scratch paper underneath because blends tend to bleed through, and we don't want it damaging any surface you may have underneath. So what we're going to do is stamp up our ink pad, or our stamp up our stamp from our ink pad. Sorry, thumble words today. And we're going to stamp that down, hold that for a couple of seconds, just let that ink settle in, and stamp off. And we're going to do that twice. Now, just for time's sake, I've already done one of these already tonight, so I'm only just going to do colour in one. Whoops, that one's smudged a bit. I'm going to do that one again. We won't use that one. Probably wriggled as I was talking my stamp around a little bit. Ah, that's better. Okay, so let's just clean that off. Cleans off quite well on our chamois. I just keep my chamois moist inside a stamp box that you can purchase, so it's ready to go at all times. We'll just put a cover on our Memento. Now all my products you can purchase on my online store, and you can find that at michelledutrissa.stampingup.net. So we're going to start off with our Old Olive light. I like to work from my light to my dark. Some people like to go the other way, but I always like to lay my light down first. I'm going to start with using the fine nib, and ooh, that shouldn't have happened. I'll probably put that on too tight. Let's try that again. Okay, had a little bit of a malfunction here, but that's all right. We can fix all this. If you do have problems with Stampin' Up products, Stampin' Up are very good in trying to fix the issues for you. Okay, so that's all back together again. So what we're going to do is we're going to colour in one of these images, and I'm going to start with this image down here. When you're using blends, always work in a small area, because what we need to do is actually saturate that area in colour. So we're just going to work in a small circular motion, just going around. Now just be very careful when you go to the edge. Sometimes they can bleed, but this today hasn't seemed to be doing that. And I'm just working in a small circular motion, just going around that area. Now I'm going to go around this twice. So I'm going to go over the whole area and then go back and go over the area again. The more ink that you can lay down, the easier it is to actually blend your colour when we come to put the darker one on. and some classes I did a few years ago with using another brand said that if you turn your cardstock over, you should have your colour coming through. So there's your bleeding through to the other side. So that's what you're looking for. So what I'm going to do is pop my lid back onto that, and I'm going to grab my darker one. Now I like to actually work towards myself here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of darkness underneath where those berries are coming out, and I'm going to just flick my pen, just following the line that's already there, stamping up. I've already put lines in there, and we're just doing basic. We just want to bring it, you know, make a little bit of a shadow. Once we've done that, we go back with our light colour, and let's see if I can get this lid off again. Yep, that's it. And we're just going to again go over that and just blend those edges out. So we're just blending that dark colour out into the light, and you can see it just becomes a fairly solid looking colour, looking leaf there with some shading in it. So we're going to turn this around, and we're going to start working on our second leaf, just working, as I said, in a circular motion, going all the way around. So I hope you've all had a great day. I hope it hasn't been too hot where you are. So now I've gone over that once, I'm going to go over that a second time, just to lay down some extra ink in there. I would never work on an area any bigger than what I'm working on now, just for the fact that by the time you start at one end, the other end could be dry. We don't want that to happen. So we're going to go back, grab our darker colour, again, just put a little bit of dark underneath those berries where there'll be a bit of shading. And then I'm just going to bring that and just flick those lines out. Just want to like a tick type motion. Bring in your light colour again. Go over the top of that, just blending that all out. Again, you could do a flicker motion. Just blending those two colours out. So as you can see, it's quite quick and very simple. So now we're going to do our berries, and again I'm just using the light colour, and I'm using the fine nib because we're only working on small areas, and I'm just going to work around in that area. I'm not worrying about putting too much colour down in here, or oversaturating it like I did with the other one, just sort of just laying the colour. Again, grab the dark one, add a few highlights where the berries might be overlapping a little bit, a bit of darkness coming in. Just really just gone around the edges there, and then again with the lighter one and just blending that in. Now if you want to put a little bit of a spot on that to show where maybe the light's shining and how shiny the berries are, if you grab your colour lifter, you can put like a little mark in there, and you can see that that colour is starting to lift out. Okay, like you see on a balloon, you know, you've got one shiny spot. So I'm just doing a similar sort of thing here, but just moving the colour. What it does is actually pushes the colour outwards. Another one on there. Okay, so once we've coloured those in, you need to colour two. Now as I said, I'm just going to move these out of the road here, and there's my original, and that's the one I did a little bit earlier. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to do some fussy cutting. So I'm just going to cut around this with my scissors just to make it a smaller area. Pop that over there to one side, and we're just going to cut around this whole image. Now the easiest way to cut is actually just hold your scissors straight and just move your paper around. Let the paper do the work, and just your scissors, you're just closing it every now and then. Now I'm not leaving an edge, I'm cutting it right up to the edge, so if any of this did bleed or anything like that, you are going to be cutting it away. So I'm just cutting this right around to the edge, get rid of those little bits there. Again, I'm just turning my paper. Now I'm using a straight pair of scissors here. You can also use like a pair of nail scissors, which have got a curve in them. If you ever learned to do paper towel, that's one of the things that they recommend when you're doing paper towel, is actually to use a pair of scissors like a nail scissors, because the curve will help you cut around curves nicely. So we're just going to let that paper, just turn that paper and just let it do the work. Has everyone started their Christmas shopping yet? It's getting pretty close. I've took my boys are all young men now, and I took them shopping the other day and picked up a few bits and pieces that they were wanting. So it's good to get it all done nice and early. But I think it gets harder as they get older. When they're little, you could easily buy them presents that were big and took up lots of room, whereas when they're older, the presents get dearer and smaller. It's not fair. Okay, so I've finished yakking here. I'll just pop all that rubbish away. Okay, so now we've left with that. Now what you can do, if you haven't actually cut that as neat as what you possibly would like, using the fine tip of your blender pen, just run around those edges just to take off the creaminess off the edges or parts where you may have missed putting a bit of colour, or you haven't been able to cut in there as finely. Just a little trick, again used in when you do paper towel, but it's actually quite good because it hides a lot of where you might have just missed a little bit. You don't have to go back and trim it up. And I'm just going to do the same with the berries. Just going to run just around the side of the nib and on the edges of that paper. Just gives you a nice little finish like that. I'm just going to get rid of that little bit in there by put a colour there. Okay, so there's our two berries done. Now I want to give a bit of shape with these. I don't know whether you can tell, whoops, but I've actually given a little bit of dimension to the leaves and to the berries. And the way that I've done that, now I'm just looking at this and I'm wondering whether, have I frozen on the computer? Nope, we're still going. Okay, so I'm going to give these a little bit of shape. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a foam piercing mat. I'm going to pop those down there, move my scissors out of the road. Oh, I'm having a terrible night for remembering what things are called tonight. This is a fantastic tool, if I can remember what to call it. But anyway, it's in our catalogue. It's probably because I haven't had dinner yet, so I'm not really quite remembering everything. And we're just going to twist off the end of this. It comes, one end comes with, I'll just show you, one end comes with like a spatula. And if you take it off, the other end has got a pointy tool that you can pierce holes with. But it also comes with a stylus, and you've got a thick end to the stylus and you've got to use a thin end to the stylus, and we're going to use our thick end. Okay, so thank you, Vicky. Pick me up tool. I don't think it's pick me up, but anyway, that doesn't matter. Fantastic tool, worthwhile to get. On this end here it's got putty. I'm not going to open it because every time I do the putty comes out. That's really great for picking up fine things. So we're going to turn these over and we're going to use our thick end of our stylus, and what we're going to do is we're just going to work in a light circular motion on the back, just pushing down lightly, just going around in a circle, just stretching that paper out. It's helping it to start to curl a little bit. So we'll do that leaf. We're going to move it around. We'll do the next leaf. Take a pick tool. That's what it's called. Fantastic tool. Everyone should have one. See, I knew it'd come to me eventually. Been a big day here. Okay, so now I've done the 2 leaves, and then I'm just going to do the berry as well. So I'm just pushing that around, just in a circular motion. Just give those berries, give each one a bit of curve. So I'm going to pop that one to one side, and we're going to turn this one over and do the same thing with our second leaf. So just working around, and I'm working like the leaves separately to the berry. I'm not going over the berry and the leaves all together. I'm just doing my leaves first. And then I'm going to work on each of those berries, and each one individually. So I'm just going to work around in a circle. So they've become quite cup shaped now. So we're going to flip them over. And this is where you can change. So you twist that, we're going to change it to the smaller stylus end. And then what we're going to do is I'm just going to outline those berries and just down through the center of each of those leaves, and it's just pushing it back in the other way. So again, outline the berries and then down through the center of those leaves. It's just giving them that little bit of shape. Okay, so that's our holly and berries done. So we're going to pop those to one side. Get rid of that for the moment. And now we're going to bring in our piece of crumb cake cardstock. So let's just move all of that away. And we're going to stamp all over this. Now this will make me quite a few tags, but I'd rather stamp the whole lot rather than stamping just one tag at a time. So we've got our crumb cake ink pad here. We're just going to lightly tap that and cover that with ink, and we're just going to randomly stamp these all over. You want to try to get fairly good coverage if possible, and fairly close, because these are all going to be cut into around about 5 centimeter widths. Now the cardstock, I've taken a piece of A4 cardstock and I've cut it straight down through the center at 10.5 centimeters. Okay, turn my berries around every now and then so I've got them coming in at different directions. And we're just going to keep going all over until we've covered it. Now if you get a little bit like this down here where I've got a bit of a gap, what you can do is just stamp a little bit in there. So we should be able to get that one there. I'm trying not to overlap them as much as if possible. All we want to do is just get, because this is just forming a background and it's colour on colour. So we've got, and this is where I was saying before, Stampin' Up! Have been really clever in that all their cardstock, so you've got crumb cake cardstock and crumb cake ink pad. So you can keep everything all working together and coordinated. And then you've got crumb cake blends. So they've really work this out so it's one-stop shopping. You don't have to be going to quite a few different shops to get what you want. You can get it all at one place. Okay, so there we are. We've covered all of that. So we're going to pop that stamp now to one side as we're finished with that ink pad. And now I need to bring in my trimmer. Okay, so as I said before, this is an A4 piece of cardstock, and I've cut it in half at 10.5 centimeters. Now you could work on the whole A4 piece and stamp all over that if you've got lots of these to do, but I just find it's easier sometimes just to work on half a sheet. So what we're going to do is lift this up here, pop this in here. Now we want 5 centimeters or 2 inches because we're going to use a tag topper punch to give us our decorative edge on the top like this up here, and we're going to need to have it that wide to fit, and I'll show you the reason why in a moment. So let's pop that in there. And that's at about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, and we're going to cut that. So we can cut quite a few. You can just slide these along and cut. So it makes it very, very quick if you're wanting to do multiples of these. Just make sure that your cardstock is right to the very top of your trimmer. And our last one is probably going to be too narrow. Or we might just get one more because that's just on 5. Okay, beautiful. So we'll take all those and pop them to one side. Pop the trimmer away. Now this is our punch. So we've got a couple of different punches in our catalogue. I don't have my catalogue here handy to tell you the name of the punch, I'm sorry. But it has 3 different widths in here. You've got down the bottom a 1 inch width. Let me just double check. Yep. So that's 1 inch, or it'll be 2.5 centimeters. The next one up is about 1.5 inches, and the next one up is, let me just double check on myself. Yep, 1.5 inches, and then the top one is 2 inches. So what we're going to do is take one of our tags, work out which end you want to be the top and which end you want to be the bottom. Slide it in along the top and push it right in until you can't go any further. Turn it upside down and check, and you can see that your paper is right there at the very top. So once that's in, push down your punch, and there you have it. You've got this beautiful punched edge here. And I think because I'm trying to get like a heritage type look, I think it's quite nice. It's got those beautiful scallops on there. So we're going to pop that now to one side, get rid of our rubbish there. And we're going to sponge all around our edges. So we need to bring back our crumb cake and sponges. Now sponges we also sell. This was a round and I've cut that into quarters. So it just gives me a nice sponge to grab hold of. And we're just going to lightly sponge all the way around our edges of our cardstock. It just gives us that little bit of antique look to our tag. Now I've got a spot here which I've got quite a big area there that's not covered by stamp. You can come back in and re-stamp just those areas there, but I'm not going to worry about that because I think the holly that I've done is going to cover a lot of that. This is just what we've done here is just to give it a bit of more of an interest than leaving it plain. Okay, so we've sponged all around that. So now we need to work out where is our holly going to sit. So we're going to have one piece of holly there, and I'm going to put another one here. Now we do have a little bit more stamping to do, but first off I think I'm just going to adhere those. So the first one I'm actually going to glue down with some multi-purpose glue, since now I've worked out where I want them to sit. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue because I want this one here to sit flat, and the other one we're going to put up on dimensionals so then it can sit. Running out of glue. There we go. So this one here, we're just going to pop him there and just hold him down for a little bit until he dries. Don't need to put too much pressure on because we've raised it up a little bit and we don't want to get rid of all of that lovely shape we've done. So here's our other one, and I'm going to use some mini dimensionals on this. So our dimensionals come in two sizes. They come in a large and they come in a mini, and the mini are really great because they fit just in those little areas. Up the top. Sometimes I use tweezers to get these up though. Okay, so we might just put one more. We don't want it coming off. Now take your backings off. Yeah, sometimes I use tweezers just to lift these off because they are tiny. I'll put my finger on each one of those just to make sure they're tacky. Yes, I have taken all the covers off them. Okay, so we're going to flip that over. Remove those, whoops, those dimensionals out of the road. And we're going to work out where we're going to have this one. So we can overlap it a little bit. I'm going to sit that one probably about there like that. So he's just sitting up that little bit higher than the other one. So there we go, there's our two there so far. They don't have to be identical because it's good to have them a little bit different. Okay, so now we need to stamp our Merry Christmas. So I'm going to bring back my little scrap there. And this time we're going to use the real red. So we've had the real red in our blends. Now we've got the real red in our stamp pad. So I've already mounted my stamp. Now I'm just going to very lightly tap this. This is a new ink pad. I replaced this the other day when we had our sale on because those ink pads were such a good price and mine was an old style. So we're just going to stamp that straight down and straight up. And I'm just going to do a second one just to see if I can get slightly better coverage. Nope, we'll go a third one. Perfect. 3 times was the lucky. Okay, let's just close that stamp pad up. If you close up your stamp pads as you're using them, you're not as likely to get your hands in them, which is what I will tend to do. Okay, so now we're just going to cut this out. You could use your trimmer to cut it out, but you know what? The lines are already there, so it's just easy enough just to follow those lines and trim that out. And trim that across there as well. So again, we're going to put some mini dimensionals on the back of that. So we just need 3 on the back of this, just 1 at each end. And 1 in the middle. My phone just went ping again. I worry every time it goes ping because a few times it's gone ping and we've lost connection. But I think everything is looking good so far. Please tell me if we don't see me. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to then place that on the bottom of our tag. Hi Renee, how are you? Good to hear your arm's getting better. Okay, so there we are. We've got our Merry Christmas on there. So now all we need to do is the top of our tag. So we're going to use some of this ribbon, this beautiful ribbon that coordinates, and I've probably used about 6 inches of it, roughly. And we also need some linen thread, because what I've done here, I don't know whether you can see it, but I've put a piece of linen thread there so that can be tied on the bag, and I've put another little piece of linen thread tied around the top of the ribbon with a bow just to make it hold it all into place. So whatever length you think you might need to tie your tag on, and all I did was just thread that through, put it to halfway and then just tie that off in a double knot, because you're actually going to not see that part. So that's, whoops, just wants to spin on me. So that's just there, tied on like that. We're now going to take our ribbon. Now I just fold it in half so I can easily thread it through that hole, and just thread that through that hole like that and bring that up. So now all those pieces, so that linen thread and the ribbon should all be going up there together like that. Now we just need another piece, which is probably around about 8 inches, so about 15 centimeters, I think that works out to be. And we're just going to wrap that around the top. Whoops, move that out of the road. So let me put that back in camera view. Wrap it around the top, and I just do a double knot, just making sure that's up nice. Do a knot into that, just like that. Now I like to tie my bows upside down, because I find when I tie it upside down, my tails are more likely to go in the direction I want them to go. So I tie it opposite to the way I want my tails to go. Tie that into a bow, and then play with it until you get it. Get the bow the size you want and wear the tightness that you want. Once you've done that, just trim off excess in length. You want to keep them fairly long, you don't want to have them too short. And then we're just going to angle our ribbon, but just be careful you don't cut the linen off for tying on your parcel. So there you are, 2 Christmas tags done, 20 to go. Okay, I'm just going to flip you over again, so it won't be a moment. Back to me. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that tonight. Make some tags, have some fun. They'll come in handy since we're getting close to Christmas, of course. And I hope you've enjoyed learning tonight a little bit more about your blends, and I'd love to see you all having a go. So if you have any questions or anything like that, just give me a hoy. Have a lovely evening, keep on stamping, and I'll catch up with you next week. Bye for now.